What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Here we are with another reaction. In this, we got 25 Dutch military facts that seem fake, but are 100% real. Before we dive into the video, if you guys happen to enjoy, please don't forget to smash subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and let's get right to it.
Hey there! Welcome back to our channel. If you've been here before, you probably remember our last video where we uncovered some Dutch military strategies that shocked the world. Well, guess what? This time, let's have a look at 25 Dutch military facts that might seem fake to you but are 100% real. 1. The Netherlands. Once had the most powerful navy in the world.
I did know that.
It's hard to believe now, but back in the 17th century, the Dutch Navy was the most powerful navy on the planet.
They ran the water. They wasn't playing no games. They said, you meet us out on this water and you're taking an L.
That's right. More powerful than the British or the Spanish. This was during the Dutch Golden Age when the Netherlands was a global superpower, thanks to its trade and naval dominance.
Facts.
They had over 2,000 warships at one point, which is more than any other country at that time.
Over
Dutch admiral
2,000 warships, dog. 2,000. Yeah, they wanted all the smoke.
Admirals like Michel de Ruyter
smoke.
were out there defeating bigger and wealthier nations on the regular. They weren't just protecting their own shores. They were fighting battles across the globe, from the Caribbean to Indonesia. 2. The only country to successfully invade England. Since 1066. You've probably heard of the Norman conquest of 1066, but did you know the Dutch are the only ones to successfully invade England since then? In 1688, William of Orange led the Dutch Navy across the English Channel with
everybody got the utmost respect for William of Orange.
463 ships, more than what the Spanish Armada had. He landed in England, and without much of a fight, managed to take the throne from King James II in what's now called the Glorious Revolution.
Really?
And get this, he didn't just invade, he became the King of England, Scotland, and Ireland. That's some next-level Game of Thrones stuff right there.
Oh, everything.
3. The Dutch Navy burned down a large part of the British fleet.
Oh.
In 1667, the Dutch pulled off one of the most humiliating defeats in British naval history, the raid on the Medway. The Dutch fleet sailed right up the River Thames and burned or captured over 15 British warships. They even stole the HMS Royal Charles, one of the pride ships of the British fleet. And to this day, the ship's stern is displayed in a museum in Amsterdam. The Brits were so embarrassed, they quickly signed a peace treaty to stop further attacks. 4. The Dutch army had bicycle regiments for warfare. This one might sound kind of funny, but it's true. The Dutch army had entire regiments that fought on bicycles. The Netherlands is flat, so bikes were a fast and efficient way for soldiers to get around. During World War II, when gas was scarce and roads were often blocked, these bike regiments were able to move quickly and quietly. In fact, even today, you'll still see Dutch soldiers training on bikes as part of their military drills. It's like they weaponized the country's love for cycling.
Yes.
5.
Absolutely weaponized the country's love for cycling. Now, I know Netherlands, all about cycling, all about walking, not really rocking with the cars. I definitely know that. But to the point where the military was fighting on bikes, that is absolutely shocking, bro. I love it. I'm fascinated. I can't believe it. That's I never heard that one.
The Dutch flooded their own country to defeat invaders.
The
Dutch are famous for their water management, but did you know they actually weaponized water to stop invaders? It's called the Dutch Water Line, a defense system that allowed them to flood large parts of the country at will. This wasn't just some small moat.
Invaders.
We're talking entire provinces flooded with knee-deep water. Too shallow for boats, but too deep for soldiers and artillery to cross. It worked like a charm against the Spanish, the French, and even Nazi Germany during World War II. 6. The Netherlands has one of the oldest air forces in the world.
Really?
The Royal Netherlands Air Force was founded in 1913, making it one of the oldest independent air forces in the world. That's only a decade after the Wright brothers made their first flight. They started with just one plane, a brick, and a few brave pilots. Fast forward to today, and the Dutch Air Force is flying F-35s and conducting missions all over the globe with NATO. Talk about a glow-up. 7. The Dutch were the first to use explosives in naval mines,
Dang.
while most countries were still figuring out how to.
Look how high that explosion caused the water to go. Hey, the Dutch was the first, or one of the first, to do a lot of
float a
things in the
ship.
world.
The Dutch were already laying underwater mines to defend their harbors. In the 16th century, Dutch engineers invented some of the earliest naval mines filled with explosives to blow up enemy ships sneaking into their waters. These weren't just simple traps. They had mechanisms that would
Oh
detonate
my
when a ship passed
God.
overhead. It's like having an underwater minefield centuries before most other navies even thought of it. 8.
Yeah.
The Dutch pioneered modern military engineering techniques. During the 80 Years' War, Dutch engineers came up with new ways to build forts, dig trenches, and conduct sieges.
Huh.
They're the ones who figured out how to make star
Ooh.
forts. Those cool-looking, star-shaped fortresses designed to withstand cannon
Never
fire.
seen that. I've never seen a star fort in my life, but that is absolutely freaking dope. Like, it's even like, it's almost double starred around, bro. That's fire, bro. The Dutch are literally amazing. Like,
These forts were nearly
That's
impossible to
crazy.
capture, and the tactics the Dutch developed are still taught in military academies around the world. So every time you see one of those old-school star forts, just know that's some Dutch engineering right there.
That's amazing, bro.
The Netherlands
Hey,
defended a city using ice skaters.
No way.
Okay,
No way.
this one
No
sounds
way.
totally made up, but
Gotta
it's true.
be. No
In
way.
1795, French troops were advancing across the frozen rivers in the Netherlands. So what did the Dutch do? They sent out soldiers on ice skates to attack the French troops. These soldiers could skate circles around the invaders, hitting and running before the French could even figure out what was happening.
Wow.
It's probably the only time in history that ice skates were used as military gear. 10.
That's
The Netherlands
insane.
established one of the first modern standing armies. Before the 1500s, most European armies were just farmers and peasants handed a sword whenever a war broke out. But in 1572, the Dutch set up the Staatse Leger, one of the first modern standing armies. This wasn't a bunch of part-timers with pitchforks. This was a full-time professional army with regular pay, uniforms, and advanced training. And they needed it too, because they were fighting against Spain, one of the world's biggest superpowers at the time. 11. The Netherlands created one of the first
Hey,
military
that's
intelligence
Zelensky over
agencies.
there.
The Dutch were among the first to realize that knowledge is power in warfare. In the 19th
Facts.
century, they set up one of Europe's earliest military intelligence services, GS3. These guys were intercepting enemy communications, gathering intel from spies, and analyzing battle strategies long before most countries even thought of it.
Dang.
Basically, the Dutch were doing 007 stuff before James Bond was even a thing.
Yeah.
12th Dutch
I
Commandos fought in the jungles of Indonesia. After World War II, the Netherlands wasn't just rebuilding at home. They were fighting a brutal conflict in Indonesia, which was trying to gain independence. Dutch commandos trained for jungle warfare and conducted missions deep in the tropical forests. These weren't regular soldiers. These were elite forces trained to survive with nothing but a knife and a compass. The conflict was messy and controversial, but it proved that Dutch commandos could hold their own in some of the world's toughest environments. 13.
But I gotta
The
say, the Dutch are absolutely fascinating in what y'all have been able to do throughout history with y'all's military. Like, all the things that have been done, I just did not know the Dutch had this much history. And I guess I'm dumb, and I should have known, but we didn't really get to learn about the rest of the world and growing up in the U.S. education system. We learned about U.S. history. But this Dutch history is insane.
Netherlands was the
Especially
first
this
country to use an
military
entire
history.
naval fleet for global trade protection. All right,
Really?
let's kick things off with the Dutch and their love for all things maritime. You might have heard of the Dutch East India Company,
Yes.
VOC, often called the world's first multinational corporation.
Why, my thing is, and I've always wondered this, why VOC as a letters but called the Dutch, like the East India Company? I don't get why VOC is a logo.
But what's even crazier is that they basically had their own private navy. We're talking hundreds of warships armed to the teeth.
Oh,
In the 1600s, the VOC's fleet was out there fighting pirates, battling rival nations, and protecting Dutch trade routes stretching from Java to Japan.
Dang.
They were so powerful that other countries like England and Portugal were genuinely terrified of running into a Dutch warship. And get this,
Really?
they weren't just protecting merchant ships. They were taking over entire spice islands and setting up colonies. This wasn't just a trading company. This was a maritime empire with enough firepower to back it up. No wonder they called it the Golden Age for the Netherlands.
Yeah.
14th Dutch Cavalry
Yeah.
conducted one of the last horseback charges in World War II.
Dang.
Yes, you heard that right. Horseback charges were still a thing in World War II, and the Dutch pulled off one of the last ones in Europe.
Dang.
When the Nazis invaded in May 1940, the Dutch cavalry didn't just retreat. They mounted up and charged straight at German infantry with sabers drawn.
What?
In a time when tanks and machine guns were the norm, seeing cavalry units charging across fields must have been a sight straight out of a medieval painting.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, bravery doesn't stop bullets,
Yeah.
and the Dutch cavalry took heavy losses.
I would assume you're charging straight at guns and tanks on horses with sabers. Just not gonna win that one. It's not. It's not the smartest or most strategic move in the world.
Still, their courage was legendary. And it's one of those stories that proves just how much heart the Dutch military had,
That's
even when the odds were hopeless. It might not have changed the course of the war, but it sure made the Germans rethink what they were up against. 15th Dutch fighter pilots shot down the first German bomber
Oh, really?
over Western Europe in World War II. When people think about World War II dogfights, they usually imagine the Battle of Britain or American pilots over the Pacific. But
Yeah.
the very first German bomber to be shot down in Western Europe wasn't by the Brits or the French, it was by the Dutch. On May 10th, 1940, the same day the Nazis invaded the Netherlands, Dutch pilots scrambled into their old-school Fokker D.XX-1 fighters and went toe-to-toe with the Luftwaffe. In one of these dogfights, a Dutch pilot named Willem Hendrik Wim van der Kopp managed to shoot down a German Heinkel. A 111 bomber, the first confirmed kill of its kind on the Western Front. Considering that the Dutch Air Force was hopelessly outgunned and outnumbered, it was a huge morale boost. They might not have had the fancy planes or the numbers, but they sure as hell had the skills and guts to take on the Luftwaffe. 16. The Dutch military still has active troops in the Caribbean. It might surprise you to learn that the Dutch military isn't just defending their little corner of Europe. They've got troops stationed 5,000 miles away in the Caribbean. How? Well, the Kingdom of the Netherlands still includes territories like Aruba, Curaçao, and Sint Maarten. Dutch Marines and naval ships are permanently stationed in these islands to defend against potential threats, conduct counter-drug operations, and even provide disaster relief during hurricane season.
Jeez Louise.
They're not just sitting on the beach sipping pina coladas either. These guys are
yeah.
running counter-piracy missions and intercepting drug traffickers on a regular basis. The Dutch Caribbean Coast Guard also works alongside the U.S. Coast Guard to keep the region's waters safe. It's a reminder that the Netherlands isn't just a European power. It's got a bit of a tropical reach too.
Respect.
17.
I don't mess with that Netherlands military. Even today, back then you really ain't mess with it because they was really giving that smoke to any and everybody. But even today, hey, you better watch yourself.
Netherlands captured an entire Spanish fleet without losing a single ship.
Entire?
This one sounds like something straight out of Pirates of the Caribbean, but it actually happened. In 1628, Dutch Admiral Piet Hein pulled off one of the most insane naval heists in history by capturing an entire Spanish treasure fleet without losing a single ship.
That's insane.
The Spanish ships
That
were
is
loaded with
insane.
gold, silver, and other loot from the Americas, worth about 12 million guilders, which would be worth billions today. Piet Hein's fleet swooped in near Cuba, took the Spanish completely by surprise, and sailed away with the entire convoy.
Dang.
The best part was that Piet Hein didn't just pocket the loot. He used it to fund the Dutch war effort against Spain, giving his homeland a huge financial boost.
Dang, so he took Spain's money. He took the treasure that they had on their ship, then used that same money against them to defeat them. So Spain literally lost to the efforts that were made available by the money that they had on their ship. That's
The
crazy.
Spanish were so embarrassed they refused to talk about it for years.
That's
Can you blame them?
absolutely embarrassing.
18. The Dutch had an underground military fortress that remained hidden for years. Now, if you've ever played a video game where you stumble upon an underground bunker full of supplies, you're going to love this. The Dutch built Fort Pannerden in the 19th century, a secret underground fortress designed to protect the water routes leading to Germany.
Oh,
This wasn't just a hidey hole in the ground. It had barracks, weapons, and enough supplies to hold out for weeks.
dang.
During World War II, the Nazis stumbled upon it but couldn't crack it at first. Dutch soldiers held out in the fort for 3 days before they finally surrendered, blowing up parts of the fort as they left to make sure the Germans couldn't use it. Today,
Smart.
the fort is open to the public as a museum.
Oh.
So if you ever wanted to explore a real-life underground bunker, now's your chance.
I would love to. I would absolutely
19.
love to.
The Dutch utilized pioneers as a separate military unit during sieges. When we think about medieval battles, we usually picture knights and swords, not
Yeah.
engineers and shovels.
Mm-mm.
But during the siege of Steenwijk in 1592, the Dutch showed the world how powerful engineering could be in warfare.
Mm.
The Dutch were among the first to deploy pioneers as separate military units. These weren't fighters, but specialized soldiers trained to dig trenches, build fortifications, and set up explosive traps. Their job was to get as close to enemy walls as possible, tunnel underneath, and then blow things up. This strategy was so effective that it turned siege warfare on its head. Instead of sitting outside a city and hoping the defenders would starve, the Dutch could break through walls in days instead of weeks or months. It's safe to say that these guys were the original combat engineers. 20. The Dutch military operates one of the most advanced cyber warfare units. From medieval sieges to modern warfare. Let's fast forward a few hundred years. You might not think of the Netherlands as a cyber superpower, but their Defense Cyber Command, DCC, is one of the most advanced in the world. Formed in 2014, the DCC is tasked with everything from cyber defense to offensive operations, including hacking enemy networks and disrupting communications. They're also a major player in NATO's cyber defense strategies, conducting joint exercises and sharing intel. In fact, in 2018, Dutch intelligence famously foiled a Russian cyber attack against the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, OPCW. They caught 4 Russian agents red-handed, laptops in tow, trying to hack the organization's Wi-Fi. Talk about turning the tables.
Got him. Yeah, they thought they were slick. Them Russian agents thought they were slick. They thought they were sneaky. They thought they were spies for real. But they quickly learned, nah, can't get nothing past us. Caught red-handed. Let's go ahead and lock you up. All right, go. Don't make this more difficult on yourself than it need to be. Go ahead and put the cuffs on.
21. The Netherlands once lost an entire military submarine for over 75 years.
God dang.
In December 1941, the
75?
Dutch submarine HNLMSKXVI was on a mission near Malaysia when it hit a Japanese mine and disappeared without a trace. For the next 75 years, no one knew what happened to it. Then, in 1978, divers discovered the wreck,
Dang.
upright and almost intact, off the coast of Tioman Island. But here's the twist. The wreck has since disappeared again, likely looted by illegal salvagers.
Are you serious?
This isn't just some rusty old boat we're talking about. This is a war grave for the 36 Dutch sailors who went down with it.
Wow.
The Netherlands is still trying to find out who's responsible for the disappearance. It's a heartbreaking mystery that might never be solved. 22. The Dutch conducted a 335-year-long war with the Isles of Scilly.
Oh, what?
You know those movie plots where a war ends but no one tells one of the outposts, so they just keep fighting? Yeah, that happened. From 1651 to 1986, the Netherlands was technically at war with the Isles of Scilly, a small group of islands off the coast of England.
That's crazy.
Here's how it went down. During the English Civil War, the Dutch sided with Parliament, while the Isles of Scilly were loyal to the Royalists.
Gotcha.
The Dutch declared war on the islands but never actually sent any ships to fight. Everyone just kind of forgot about it. It wasn't until 1986, 335 years later, that a local historian realized the war had never officially ended. The Dutch ambassador came to the Isles, and they finally signed a peace treaty, joking about how there were thankfully no casualties. 23rd. Dutch snipers are among the most highly trained in the world.
Look at that monster of a sniper, bro. Jeez Louise.
Dutch snipers are part of the Corps Pan Commando Troepen, TAC KCT, the Netherlands Special Forces, and their training is no joke. Before even touching a sniper rifle, candidates have to pass a brutal selection process that includes survival tests, long-distance marches, and psychological evaluations.
Oh,
The actual sniper training lasts about 5 weeks and covers everything from camouflage and concealment to hitting targets at over 1,000 meters.
that is
They also train with
insane.
other elite units like the British SAS
Oh,
and the US Navy
oh,
SEALs, swapping tactics and running joint exercises. Their skills aren't
some of
just
the
for
best
show
special
either.
forces in the world.
Dutch snipers have been deployed in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Mali, where they've conducted missions ranging from counterterrorism to hostage rescues. 24. The Dutch military built floating fortresses for defense.
What?
If you thought water-based defense was just about dikes and canals, think again. In the 18th and 19th centuries, the Dutch built floating batteries, basically heavily armed fortresses on water, to protect their coastlines.
That's
These weren't
crazy.
ordinary ships. They were designed to stay in one place and take a beating, with thick iron armor and dozens of cannons.
Wow.
The idea was to anchor these floating fortresses at key points to blast any enemy ships trying to invade.
Yo.
One of the most famous examples is the HNLMS Buffel, an ironclad ship that was part of the coastal defenses. Today, you can actually visit it as a museum ship in Rotterdam. It's a testament to just how far the Dutch were willing to go to protect their shores. 25. The Dutch played a significant role in the liberation of the Netherlands during World War II. When we talk about the liberation of Europe in World War II, we often think of American, British, and Soviet troops. But the Dutch resistance and military played a huge role in liberating their own country.
Respect.
One of the most famous operations was Operation Market Garden in 1944, where Dutch forces worked with British and American paratroopers to try and capture key bridges in the
This
Netherlands.
is insane.
Even though the operation didn't go as planned, the bravery of Dutch fighters was never in question. Then there was the Dutch Princess Irene Brigade, a unit of exiled Dutch soldiers who landed in Normandy and fought their way back into the Netherlands alongside the Allies. They didn't stop until the country was free from Nazi occupation. If you enjoyed this series, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss out on our next deep dive into history. As always, let us know in the comments which fact surprised you the most. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.
Nah, that's absolutely freaking dope, bro. The Dutch military history is genuinely fascinating. Again, they mastered water. They conquered the water for so long that they are easily able to use it to defend themselves. Does not surprise me, but it is absolutely freaking fascinating. Y'all let me know what was the most impressive feat on those 25 things. Let me know your favorite one. The Star Forge probably or the top one. If I can, yeah, building those Star Force, those look really, really freaking cool. And then you freaking take Spain's money and use it against them in a war. That's nice. That's all we got. If you enjoyed, don't forget to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up. Check out the next. I'll see you guys next.